is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we have some Detroit Lions news to discuss. As we get prepared for training camp, we were given some Lions news, which is usually a good thing. It's like, hey, we got news, we got something to talk about, but today it's not really good news, but it is news, so we are going to talk about it today. We also have I wouldn't even call it a trade rumor. I'd call it a trade idea that was put out there potentially for the Detroit Lions. And we're going to discuss whether or not the Lions, if this was an actual offer, should be interested in taking that deal. So let's get it started.
We're going to bite a kneecap off, and we're going to stand up, and then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down. And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap, and we're going to get up, and then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down. And when we do, we're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
Welcome everybody to the video. Glad you guys are here. And I'm excited to be back because there is some Lions things to talk about. But it's like I said, it's not good news today. It's really not. As we get prepared for training camp where veterans have to report on Tuesday. I mean, it's crazy how close we are, guys. Preseason kicks off August 13th, which is nuts. I mean, it's literally right around the corner. Like, okay, imagine this. I'm right here, right? Look around the corner. Oh, snap, there's preseason. That's how close we are. July 31st is the first day open to the public for training camp, but unfortunately it's just season ticket members only. But if you are a season ticket member, then, head up there, go check it out. I'm going to try to go to some of those days. It's the first and last day are season ticket members only, but I'm going to try to go to some of those other days to get some notes, things like that for Detroit Lions training camp. Because training camp is getting close, we have some player designations for Detroit, and there's potentially other names that are going to be added to this list. Of course, as football injuries happen, things like that go down, and we're probably going to get some through training camp, unfortunately. Hopefully not, but we probably will. And today we have some unfortunate news, I would say. And one of the names that I saw on this list, it kind of hurts you to see it, because you see it and it's like, man, I don't want to believe it, but it's there. And that is Austin Bryant. Okay, now Austin Bryant has missed a lot of time with the Lions. He was coming out of the draft dealing with injuries from Clemson, a 4th-round pick and edge. That could drop into coverage. He showed some flashes of getting to the quarterback. He had some numbers there. He could tackle. He's a really good run defender for the Lions now as well. He made some plays on special teams last season. But unfortunately, man, he just has not been able to stay on the field. He's only played 10 games in 2 seasons, which means 10 of 32 potential games played. That's it. That's all he's played in. He's definitely missed a lot of time for the Lions. And now here he is today. An update from the Lions is that he has been placed on the PUP list. Now, I'm sure you guys need an update or refresher in terms of the terminology. Maybe you don't. I did. All right, so a quick little update. What the heck is the PUP list? The PUP list is the physically unable to perform list. Yeah, so that doesn't sound good. It's definitely an injury that Austin Bryant is dealing with. But because he was placed on this list to start training camp, what that means is that he could be taken off this list anytime, even after one practice. They could go out there and they could take Austin Bryant off this list. So that's good news. But the bad news is if he remains on this list through training camp, from my understanding, is that he'll be put on the reserved PUP list, which basically is like getting placed on IR, which means that you're going to miss the first 6 weeks of the season. This does still count as a roster spot to the 90-man roster, so he still does count to the roster even though he's on the PUP list, but he would not count to the final roster. So I thought that was just a little interesting note. This doesn't really open up a roster spot with him on the PUP list, probably because the Lions could take him off really at any time if he comes back and he is physically able to perform. What is that, the PAP list? Hey, maybe he gets on the PAP list soon. Hopefully. We need to see him on the PAP list more often. But what is Austin Bryant dealing with? I actually don't know. We don't know. Okay, so something came up in June, and Dan Campbell said it was a minor injury and that he was expecting him to be prepared for training camp. It was nothing serious, but, they were going to be cautious with him. However, here he is on the PUP list. I don't know if it's tied to each other, but it is some kind of injury that he's dealing with. He's dealt with a pectoral injury with the Detroit Lions. He also last season had the thigh injury. So I don't know what it is. Either way, it's just not good news, and we're hoping that he can get back on the field fast because the Lions have comp at this spot. Now, they always have comp at this spot, but when you're talking about a guy that's missed that much time, he's from the past regime, and the Lions have already brought in players for a similar position, that's concerning. Now, of course, Julian Okwara was not brought in by this regime, but a 3rd-round pick last season. He's explosive. He only played in 69 snaps. That guy has a lot of upside, all right? So he's a guy that can drop into coverage, get after the quarterback. He can play in the 2-point stance, potentially in early downs, play at the outside linebacker spot, but on those passing downs, that's where he's going to be. He's going to be vicious because he's got a lot of pass rushing upside. I'm excited to see Julian get more snaps. Charles Harris, who the Lions signed, this regime signed, and when they signed him, they said, hey, get after the quarterback. That's your job. We need you to get after the quarterback. So Charles Harris, another one of those guys bring comp. Not the exact same type of player. Not a bad run defender, but he's more of a pass rusher. Super explosive, quick get off, fast. I mean, he has that 1st-round athletic ability, but he just hasn't been able to clean up his game and polish it completely. He does have some solid statistics. He has some pressures, but there's a lot of things that could be cleaned up in his game. A young player still, and the Lions are probably hoping to develop him a little bit, but he, again, is kind of more of an edge player. He has played on the line a little bit more, but in this defense, it kind of just depends on what defensive front we're showing. And then you also have Reggie Gilbert, who Lions signed. He spent time with the Packers, which was with Dom Capers, even though he didn't play that season, but he was there back in 2017. He didn't really play. Also, the Titans. This is a player that does have some statistics. That's not to say that maybe he has the highest ceiling, but you kind of know a little bit what you're going to get. Good run defender, not a bad pass rusher either. Doesn't have that same get-off or explosiveness or athletic ability as a pass rusher, but he does have some statistics. He looks a little more cleaned up in his pass rushing moves. So a guy like Reggie Gilbert also brings comp, who was signed again by this regime. And of course, you have Robert McCray out of Indiana, who was signed to a futures contract. He's also competing for this. Then you have Tobias, Jimmy Collins, guys that can play on the outside. So it's going to be competition. Bryant's been healthy and he's got an opportunity. He's shown he's a really good run defender. Very good edge, discipline. I love that as well. Pretty good change of direction as well for quarterbacks rolling out, things like that. Doesn't have that explosion or that speed off the edge I think some of these other guys do. So he may give you a little bit something different than Julian or Charles Harris give you, maybe even at a higher level. He's a very strong and tall player that can drop into coverage. It really depends on what the Lions value, but I think Reggie Gilbert for him will be the straight up competition. So for a 6'6", 260-pound Austin Bryant, guy that's been a really good run defender, hasn't shown us a ton as a pass rusher. I actually like the scheme fit here. I saw it on base downs. If he was asked to go out there play outside linebacker, it'll be perfect. You allow him to play in space. He doesn't have to get on the line. He can get a little more space and distance between him and the offensive tackle. It's very concerning that he's back on this. I'm hoping he can get healthy because you don't want to see a guy not make the team just because he wasn't healthy. I want to see, if he doesn't make it, that stinks, but at least he got to compete, and that's all you can really ask for. So I'm hoping Austin Bryant can get healthy. He is on the PUP list. We'll keep you updated with what goes on with Austin Bryant. We also have another player on this list. This is a UDFA Lions signed this offseason. This is Javon Mckinley out of Notre Dame, who is on the NFI list. It's non-football injury related or non-football illness. So it's something away from football that he's dealing with. That's Javon Mckinley, the UDFA out of Notre Dame, the 6'2", 215-pound receiver that just absolutely broke out last season. And the Lions liked him. How do we know that? They liked him because they gave him the most guaranteed money for any UDFA aside from Sage Surratt, who also had the same amount. Okay, the Lions liked this guy coming out of college. They gave him some money. They're excited because I think you're looking at a guy that could potentially make the roster as an undrafted free agent here in Javon Mckinley. And he broke out last year. We're talking about 40-plus receptions, 700 yards, 3 touchdowns. He was good, and that's good competition. Clemson, he went over 100 yards. Alabama, 20 yards. I mean, nothing crazy there, but still, played against good comp. The Lions like him. He's got good size. He's physical. Over 17 yards per reception last season, 24 in his first season. The dude can play, and he can be a little bit of a deep threat with good size. Fortunately, he's on the NFI list. Again, I don't know exactly what he's dealing with because it was non-football related, whether that's an injury or that's illness, but he is on that list right now. Again, you just want to see these dudes get healthy, especially the young guys. You're in UDFA. I mean, this is an uphill climb on its own. Now, for him, he got some guaranteed money, so they did show some trust and, I would say, confidence in him. But, I mean, it's an uphill climb. So you want to see the guy get healthy, have an opportunity to compete, and that's what's going on with Javon Mckinley. And then finally, we have another name, and that's Evan Heim, who is a guard. He's a backup guard for the Detroit Lions, and he has been placed on the COVID list. Now, this is weird. I don't like seeing this. I hate seeing the COVID list. Now, we don't know about his status necessarily with the vaccine. We know that over half the roster has been vaccinated. We know that all the assistant coaches have been vaccinated. Evan Heim, we don't know if he tested positive or if he was in close contact. I didn't know how the rules were going to be with the COVID stuff this season, but apparently it's still a thing. And right now for Evan Heim, he is on that list for the Detroit Lions. Now, since we don't know his status, the Lions may be able to figure that out. We don't know his status right now. It does affect how long it could take him to get back on the field potentially. So I guess for Evan Heim, if you have the vaccine and let's say you tested positive, but you're asymptomatic, in 24 hours with 2 negative tests, you can be brought back. However, if you don't have the vaccine and you test positive and you're asymptomatic, you have to wait 10 days. So there's a very big difference there between being vaccinated and being not vaccinated. Evan Heim, a backup guard for the Lions. He was brought in out of Minnesota State University. And look, this was, smaller school, but they dominated. That offensive line was tough this year. They were putting up records at Minnesota State. And what's awesome about him and the position that he's in is the Lions have a lot of young dudes at the backup offensive line positions. A lot of young guys. guys, a lot of UDFAs, a lot of new pieces, Logan Stenberg from the last regime. There's a lot of opportunity to fly up this. And what's interesting about Evan Heim at 305 pounds is that he actually played left tackle and right tackle in college. He's listed as a guard, but he played left tackle 43 starts, and he played right tackle for 11 starts. So he's actually kind of a tackle. However, the Lions were expecting him to play the guard position because of his size, I'm thinking. But for Evan Heim, we know that he can bounce around a little bit, probably could play some different spots. And when you look at the offensive linemen that we do have, you're talking about Tommy Kramer, UDFA out of Notre Dame, right? This season that you brought in. You're also talking about Logan Stenberg, a 4th-round pick. Didn't even play last season. Never saw that dude play last season. Last regime. So there's potential there to work your way up. Evan Brown. Now, Evan Brown's an interesting one. He was brought back by the Detroit Lions. He was active in 2020 for 2 weeks near the end of the season, but he didn't really play. And he spent time with multiple teams like the Dolphins, the Giants, the Browns. So he wasn't necessarily brought in by this regime, but he is here again. And Evan Brown has shown that he's been active a few times. Also, Drake Jackson, your backup center right now out of Kentucky. He looked really good. I like this film. He has the size, though, for center, like not really far out of that. I don't think he's going to push out much further than center because of his size. He seems limited to that role. So there's opportunity, no question, for Evan Heim to work his way up. Small school guy. 2020, he got no opportunity because of his pro day, because of COVID reasons. So it's kind of unfortunate that this is coming up again. But he did ultimately get to work at Minnesota State, go through a pro day, and he had some good numbers there. So Evan Heim, another one of those guys with a designation, but this may not last that long. We'll see. I don't know all the COVID rules and how they're going to go forward with that this year, but there is opportunity to move up. There's no question about it. And yeah, we'll see what happens. But 3 guys designated for the Detroit Lions. Hopefully all these guys can get back and healthy. We may have more names show up soon, but you want to see them get out there. We want to see them compete, because this is that time to earn spots. Now, the good thing is there is preseason this year. And I think that last year was even worse, because these young dudes, I mean, they got no chance. It was like you got training camp and that's it. That's it. We don't even get to see him. You got training camp, and if you can't beat out someone in training camp, they don't feel like you did, then you're not coming back. So at least having preseason to go out there and compete against other teams, getting to show on that national stage for the Lions' first 2 weeks, that's what I'm talking about. That is good for these young dudes. So hopefully they can get back, practice a little bit, get some opportunities in games, and you really just want to see them be healthy for preseason games. Austin Bryant for sure, Evan Heim, Javon McKinley, get to see what they can do, because who knows, maybe one of them shock everybody and they're like, oh snap, this dude's legit. We got to keep this guy around, because there's a lot of potential spots to be won, right? Now, fortunately, I was unable to find Evan Heim's arm length. I was looking for that. That may be a reason why he's pushing the guard as well, just aside from his size. It could be his length. Maybe he's not super long, so pushing him inside makes more sense. But also with Javon McKinley, I think this is a good opportunity for him to compete with a lot of those X-receivers, the outside guys, because I think that's what the Lions could use depth. Look, Tyrell, Brashad, they're going to get snaps inside at slot, Z receiver. Brashad I look at as the X on most snaps, but when they're going to get snaps in the inside, Tyrell played it almost half the time with Anthony Lynn. He was really good at it, so it makes sense. Amon-Ra St. Brown, of course, he's more of a slot than outside guy, but a guy that's got good size, they put on the outside, 6'2", 215, with Sage Surratt, he'll compete with those guys. You're Sage Surratt, he'll compete with them. But I don't think Geronimo Allison, maybe even a little bit of Quintez Cephas, Damian Ratley will be a big one. I think he'll compete with Damian Ratley big time as well. Heck, even maybe some Cleve Raymond. But we could use depth at the outside receiver position. So I could see our final receiver being a guy that can play that outside X receiver role, because we could use some size on the outside. Potentially could slide in occasionally, but we're going to have a lot of guys that are going to slide in. So a guy that can play that role. Let's discuss this trade idea a little bit. So if you didn't know, the LA Rams recently had a pretty big injury, and that was with Cam Akers, who was out for the season. And, the Rams obviously are kind of going all in. They kind of pushed their chips forward. They're like, hey, we're going to make this happen in the next couple of years, right? That's what they're going for. And Cam Akers for this season was expected to be the number 1 back. But now that they've lost it to the year, they have Darrell Henderson, who's a backup. They have some young guys like Funk in the back. I just love that, Funk. That's a great name. In the backfield. But there was recently a trade idea put out there that, hey, if the Detroit Lions want to make a trade with the LA Rams, because they've already made multiple deals here. We're talking about a Michael Brockers deal. We're talking about a Jared Goff deal. They've made multiple deals with the Rams. Clearly, they're connected there. Brad Holmes coming from the Rams. Aubrey Pleasant coming from the Rams. We have a lot of connections with the Rams. That another trade potentially could be the Detroit Lions, Jamal Williams to the LA Rams. Now, when you look at free agency right now, it's pretty weak when you talk about the running back. So for the Rams, their best bet might be to trade for running back. And I've actually liked some of the other things that I've read, like potentially looking at the Colts. The Colts have a pretty good deep backfield. Maybe taking a shot on Marlon Mack. He's dealt with injuries, but when he's healthy, he's pretty good. So something like that. But there was the idea that maybe the Rams could be interested in trying to grab Jamal Williams, who the Lions signed this offseason to the 2-year, $7.5 million deal out of Green Bay for a 3rd-round pick. Now, it's not your normal 3rd-round pick. It would be a comp pick, which is at the end of the 3rd round. It's not bad, but I'm just saying, it's a comp 3rd-round pick. So this is not an actual offer, but if it was an offer, should the Detroit Lions consider making this happen? I don't think I'd want to see this trade happen. I don't think I'd want to see this go down. Look, Jamal Williams averaged 4.2 yards per carry last season, 500 yards rushing. He only had 4 incompletions when it was thrown his way. 31 out of 35 receptions. He had over 200 yards receiving, 2 rushing touchdowns. Jamal Williams has been a very consistent and reliable number 2 running back to Aaron Jones with his time in Green Bay. He never really became the number 1, except when Aaron Jones wasn't there and Jamal Williams was asked to step up. And he's proven, hey, I can play the number 1 running back role when I need to. Now, with the Lions, of course, Swift isn't Aaron Jones. At least he wasn't his rookie year, but it does seem like Swift would be the number 1 running back heading into this year. But the Lions do need a number 2 running back. And they've struggled for so long to figure out this. I mean, oh my goodness, the struggles we've went through trying to land running backs. They finally have a staple of running backs where it's like, oh snap, there's some solid pieces here. Swift looked good last season, hoping that he keeps improving with DoseOfDion. Jamal Williams, he's been a really solid number 2 running back up to this point. And you draft Jamar Jefferson, who I'm just like, that dude's a stud out of Oregon State. It looks like you got the running backs, and we all believe the Lions have an offensive line here. You just needed the running backs. It was clear last season you didn't have the depth behind Swift. You had Swift, but they were kind of easing him into it. Behind that, it was like, okay, yeah, we don't got it. Adrian Peterson had a great first game against the Bears, but aside from that, it was like, okay, he's a little bit on the older side. And we've had that. We've had the LeGarrette Blunts. We've had the C.J. Andersons. We've had the older running backs. And carry on, man, it was just, he didn't get a lot of opportunities, but he's really struggled a little bit since the injuries. Not only the injuries, it seems like his vision would come into question as well. But now they had that number 2. It was their only multi-year deal they gave out this offseason, aside from re-signing Romeo Okwara. So it was kind of a big deal that they did that. This is a good running back. One of the best pass-protecting running backs in football. But now you want to trade him away. So a third-round comp pick. Let's talk about why this would make sense and why this wouldn't make sense. A case for and against. Let's make a case for real quick. And I don't have as many notes for this side, but I do have a couple. First off, the first note. It's, of course, the draft value. You're talking about landing a comp pick in the 3rd round for a 2-year, $7.5 million deal. Let's take the name away for a second, even though the name is important. You signed a guy to 2 years, $7.5 million, and you could get a comp 3rd-round pick out of that. I've read Rams fans saying, oh, we should only offer a 5th for that. And I'm like, dang, bro, we ain't taking a 5th, okay? Heck no. But saying it's a 3rd, rolling with this, a comp pick, end of the 3rd round, it is good draft value. The last time we did something like this when we traded Golden Tate away to the Philadelphia Eagles midway through the season. What did they give us? They gave us the 3rd-round pick. So to get that out of Jamal Williams, who hasn't played a snap here, who's been a number 2 running back, who Brad Holmes has stressed they want to build through the draft. So adding another mid-round pick for the Detroit Lions, I mean, dang, that would be a lot of capital. And this would be for 2022, according to this trade idea. It would really hurt the Rams. For the Lions, they would have a lot of picks. And the Rams, they would get potentially their number 1 running back. Guy that hasn't had that opportunity. Maybe he's not number 1. Maybe he splits with Darrell Henderson. I don't know. But it would be another good running back for them. And that they do have Jamar Jefferson. And they have Dedrick Mills and Michael Warren. 2 solid UDFA running backs, no question. One of them are probably going to make the team. There's probably a good chance that one of them do make it. I think the Lions probably keep Dedrick Mills, but I like Michael Warren. Mills has that kind of H-back ability, so we'll see. But they have Jamar Jefferson. Definitely think that I like Jamar Jefferson a lot. I like him a lot out of Oregon State. And, maybe he could be the number 2 to a guy like DeAndre Swift and going forward. I like him. We still haven't seen him play. We have seen Jamal and Swift play. But those are really the 2 main reasons that I look at this and say, yeah, that's why the Lions could do this. But why not? What are the reasons against? Well, let's first point out the fact the Detroit Lions would owe $1.25 million for the signing bonus. I know it's nothing crazy, but they would owe him that. So I just pointed out the Rams would take on the other contract for the next 2 years. But $1.25 million, nothing crazy, but they would owe that. Also, depth concerns. Now, like I said, Jamar could step in as that number 2 running back, and he probably would be forced to if they trade away Jamal Williams. But there is still depth question marks. And there's question marks of what you're getting. As much as I like Jamar Jefferson, like we said, the Lions have struggled hitting on draft picks out of the draft. Now, I think DoseOfDion, perfect mentor. I also really like Anthony Lynn. I think you got 2 guys that can get the best. So I think Jamar would find success here, and that could work. But there are still some depth concerns about having those 2, because behind that, Dedrick Mills, good goal line back, good H-back in my opinion. Michael Warren, power back, but he didn't even play last season. You have depth concerns, because what happens if one game Swift goes down for a couple games, right? What happens if that happens? Because it happened last year. Swift went down for a couple games, and then what the Lions have? The Lions had an awful rushing attack. Adrian Peterson could not hold the load, and that's why this offseason they did what they did, overhauling this running back position. The Lions needed better running back play. And if they lose DeAndre Swift and you don't have Jamaal, who's already proven, hey, I can step up to that role, now you're relying on rookie Jamaal to be the number one behind that likely UDFA running backs, unless the Lions went out and signed somebody, which we'll get into in a second. As running backs get hurt, it happens. Cam Akers, it happens. Hitting the ball, you're getting hit every play, but it's going to happen. And Swift dealt with an injury last season, up in practice. So if you lose that guy, Jamal Williams has proven I can step in and be the number one. It's like, okay, we have that. Jamar, we'll see how he does. But I like Jamar, especially in that number two role then. However, Jamal has already proven he could step up as one. We don't really know then what we would have if Swift went down. And that's concerning because guess what? You have to be able to run the ball this year. It's not even like an option. If the Lions go out there and they can't run the football, this is going to be a tough season. Words of Anthony Lynn, he said this: the more ways you can run, the more ways you can pass. The emphasis is to run the ball and run the ball well. That's the emphasis. He said it straight up with Dan Campbell. We did the video. Miami, running the football was an emphasis. If the Lions go out there and they can't run the ball because they aren't getting the right running back play, that's a problem. And we know that not just any running back can be thrown behind a good offensive line and have success. Because if that was the case, Carry-On wouldn't have struggled. But Swift was the only one that found really legitimate success behind that, except for Peterson and spurts. So for the Lions, they need to be able to run the football. If you're going to put Jared Goff back on the map, if you're going to give Jared Goff an honest opportunity to prove that he can be your guy going forward, no rushing game is going to be an issue. I would take a run game over top receivers every day of the week for Jared Goff. Knowing when he's had success, what he's dealt with at the receiver position. He had a lot of unproven names, just like the Lions kind of do now, and we did the video on this, but when he was at his best, he had a run game to take that pressure off him. In the words of Anthony Lynn, the more ways you can run, the more ways you can pass. It would be very concerning for Jared Goff with no running game. It also would be not very helpful to any of these receivers, especially your deep threats. All right, in the words of Dan Campbell, he wants to run the ball so he can open up those explosive plays. And we've seen it. When you run the ball well, yards per attempt shoots through the roof. We saw it with Goff. We saw it with Tannehill. We see it all the time. When you can run the ball, you can get a lot more deep plays. You can set up play action. You can get guys going down the field. If we can't run the ball, these receivers are going to have a tough day. Stepping aside from the fact that, yes, we have names that have had inconsistencies in the past, stepping aside from that a second, receivers are not going to be nearly as efficient if we can't run the football, okay? Because we're going to be focused on a pass game, and that's going to be bad. The Lions are not built that way. Lions are built to run the ball. The staff they brought in is built to run the ball. You can't bring in Anthony Lynn, go get Deuce Staley, build your team to run the football, add a guy like Penei Sewell, and not have running backs. It's like you're missing one of the most key ingredients. You're just like, okay, we're going to take a chance without it. No! Lynn also said this about Swift. We have to find a way to keep him on the field. He likes him at the 3-down back. We got to keep him on the field. That's kind of talking towards, hey, if he gets injured, that's not good. We got to find a way to keep him on the field. So Jamal gives you a reliable number two. That the Lions really have lacked. They've lacked a deep staple of running backs that they can say, oh, okay, we're good. We know what we got, okay, behind us. Let's talk about what Jamal Williams brings to the table. Jamal Williams, like I said, he's a top pass blocking running back, which means he has that third down ability. The Lions, Deuce Staley said, you got to be able to pass block. And one thing that Jamar has had some ups and downs with, I think he's had a little more ups than downs, is pass protection. But Jamal Williams is one of the best pass blockers in football. Also pass catching. Jamar's had some ups and some downs there. He just hasn't really had a lot of opportunities. Jamal Williams can catch the ball. He actually had that crazy catch against Kansas City, which was like, what the heck, when the Packers beat them. But he can catch the ball at a very high level, doesn't drop many passes. He can run a whole route tree. He actually at one point lost 10 pounds to make himself a little bit more quicker, a little more agile. He does say that he likes to run over players instead, but he does like to, keep guys guessing. So beginning a little bit quicker, a little bit twitchier was beneficial for him as a route runner, and he's staying kind of at that weight. But he also gives you that goal line ability as well. Now, the Lions could have a guy like that in Dedrick Mills, but Jamal gives you the whole package. Run the ball up in between the tackles, and he could bounce it outside a little bit if he needed to. That ability is huge when you talk about getting inside the 10. Jamal's proven that he could do that. When the Packers needed a yard, they went to Jamal. Some made a good point. What about the culture side of things? What about the idea of, hey, we signed you, we gave you a multi-year deal, before we even see you play, before we even, get to see you play the season, we're going to trade you away. What about that for the rest of the players in the locker room? Like, wait, you just traded him away? Because Jamal Williams is more than just a football player. Jamal Williams is a personality that you want to have in your locker room, on the field, his dancing. The guy gets up and he's head bobbing after he gets the first time. The guy brings the energy. And as I read a Packers article that said it really well. You can replace Jamal Williams, but you can't replace the person. That was a great point. And to trade that away, I don't think it'd be a great look. I don't think it would be. Again, not only just because on the field, but off the field as well. The culture reasons behind it. You're going to trade him away before the season even starts. Like, how does that make everybody else feel? Especially because I know that he's going to have a lot of friends in that locker room. You're going to have a lot of friends. So to trade him away, that may not hit home extremely well with a lot of these players. These players are liking Dan Campbell. They like Brad Holmes. They're buying in right now from what we've heard. So you got to also mention he's never fumbled in his career. I'm going to knock on wood. Happens. The guy's only missed 4 games in his career. He's a good pass protector. He doesn't fumble. He can run pretty well. He's not a big play threat, but he is a guy that has great vision. All right, big plays. Doesn't have a lot of big plays, but he has great vision. He runs hard, and he's consistently giving you 4 yards a pop. Consistently. And that's what Dan Campbell said. We just need 3, 4, 5 yards a carry. He's consistently giving you 4 a carry. For this scheme, it's a perfect, kind of change of pace for a guy like DeAndre Swift. It's beautiful. In a free agency, well, the names, it's kind of light right now. And this is why something like this comes up, because it's Todd Gurley, it's Duke Johnson, it's LaShawn McCoy at 33. Maybe you go get LaShawn McCoy because he has familiarity with Anthony Lynn and Deuce Staley as well. Frank Gore's 38. Alfred Morris is 33. Le'Veon Bell, maybe that's the best option. He's only 29. Raheem Boyd, who we already cut. Perkins. Tyler Irvin. I was surprised Tyler Irvin was actually a free agent. But you can tell that the names, they're not at the level of Jamal Williams. Right? So we've talked about Gurley potentially signing with the Lions, but that's for, the 3rd or 4th running back role. And how much I like Jamar Jefferson, I don't even think we need to go Gurley. I'm perfectly fine with just not even signing him. But a lot of these guys, they haven't had a lot of touches, or they're just old. They're just older at this point. We've been through the older side of, signing running backs. So I don't really want to go right back down that path again. I kind of like where we're at right now. And for Jamar Jefferson, as much as I like him, I know he'll develop with Deuce Staley with giving a chance. I would like to not throw him into a huge role right away if we don't have to. I'd like to have him get a couple touches a game here and there, get involved a little bit. Something happens, okay, I can slide up to number 2. But I don't want him to go out there and have to play a ton. Remember, DeAndre Swift is not going to be a bell cow. He may get 15, 20 touches a game, probably at least 20 touches a game. But he's not going to go out there and get tons of carries because he's not built as a bell cow. He wasn't a bell cow back in college, and you can't make him that at the next level. He needs someone to split carries with him. Built like Derrick Henry. He's built to have split touches with someone else. Keep in mind, if the Rams, let's say hypothetically this was a real trade offer, if the Rams really were willing to give up a 3rd round pick, there's a reason they would do that. Because they know they got to run the football. Like, they know how valuable it is to be able to run the football and how valuable these running backs are. You got to have a good running back. Struggle to find a good team that has bad running back play. But not only that, this is the emphasis of this offense. We are running maybe spread principles, but the emphasis is on the run, as it's Anthony Lynn's background and it's what Dan Campbell's philosophy is. Right, so to me, this is not a trade that I would make. I like having Jamal on this team. He was one of my favorite free agent signings because not only what he brings on the field, but also what he brings off the field. That personality, that's huge in your locker room. That is a game changer in your locker room. And like the article said, you can't replace the person. You cannot replace a Jamal Williams. You can't just go get a guy like that with those kind of dance moves. All right, you could try. You can go on Dancing with the Stars, pick someone up, but they ain't going to be able to play football then at that level of Jamal. Jamal's a really nice number 2. He brings a lot to the table. You understand what you're going to get. He could be a number 1 as well. He may surprise us and take that role. I don't think he will. But even if Swift wasn't there for whatever reason, or Swift needs a break, he can go be that dude because he's proven us he can do that. And Jamar then gets an opportunity to develop at probably a good pace. Instead of forcing him into the action, let him develop at a good pace with Deuce Staley. Get a couple of attempts a game. Get a couple of touches every game. And something happens, boom, now you can slide up the depth chart. Now you have Jamal 1, Jamar 2. And it's like, okay, cool. We have 2 running backs that we like here. That's what's great about it, is that you have those depth. You have to have more than 1 running back that you kind of know what you're going to get. The Lions have 2. They haven't had this in a long time, but you know what they also haven't had in a long time? They haven't had a run game. So to think that the Lions should go out here and make this kind of trade when you know you have to run, it's going to be your emphasis of the team. You know Goff needs a run game. It's proven, and he needs a guy that can catch the ball in the backfield. To take this kind of risk, I don't think it's worth it. Yes, there's a capital there. If this was Madden, could you do it? Yes, you could do it, because guess what? In Madden, it really don't matter what his, carrying or what his vision is, because guess what? I'm controlling the dude anyway. As long as he's kind of fast, we're going to be all right, because I control that. But you don't control that in the NFL. Jamal Williams has to do that, and Jamal Williams brings a lot to the table. Yes, he's not a home run threat like Jamar or Swift maybe, but he is a guy that gives you consistent yardage. You know what you're going to get. And he brings the kind of personality that just uplifts the heck out of a team. So I'm excited we got Jamal. I would not make a trade like this. It is a lot to offer, so I understand people saying I would do it because it's a good deal. Draft value is awesome until you put a name on it, because then you don't know what you're going to get at that point. And how hard is it to draft? We know how difficult it is to draft. We know running back is the toughest position to draft in football. And people always tell me, oh, they're interchangeable. Now, why is it the toughest position to draft in football? Why is it so hard to find successful running backs? Why, in a study going back a few years ago, did they find that 58% of running backs in round 1 find success? And in the 3rd round, it's 16%. When you look at the Lions' running back draft history, it makes sense because the Lions is even worse than that. Seriously, going back to 2004, I stopped. I probably could have went all day until we got to like the Barry Sanders era. I mean, Swift might end up being the best going back to 2004, and he's probably pretty darn close already, okay? Because before Swift, you had Jason Huntley, Ty Johnson, Kerryon Johnson, Dwayne Washington, Amir Abdullah. Theo Riddick was good as a 6th-round pick, good pass catcher. Mike Shore, Javid Best. Best was good, but he had the injuries, so, you know, Brown, 6th-round pick. Kevin Smith, who was a 3rd-round pick. Kevin Smith was solid for his first 2 seasons, but after that, he couldn't find a way to get healthy, and his career was cut pretty darn short. Boone, who was also a 3rd-round pick. The guy had 14 carries in 2 seasons in the NFL. That was his entire NFL career. Kevin Jones had a good rookie season. He went like 1,100 rushing yards. After that season, he would never hit 4 yards per carry again. His career would be 5 seasons long. It would end in Chicago, where he barely touched the football. How about Pinner? You could put Pinner in this, who was a 4th-round pick. Drum. I mean, you could go all day long, and you could find the lack of success the Lions have had drafting running backs. That's how tough it is to find it. So while 3rd-round pick sounds great, these draft picks the Lions have had, if you were guaranteed, hey, you're going to get Jamal Williams with this 3rd-round pick, you're taking Jamal Williams with that 3rd-round pick. You also won't be able to evaluate golf at the right level because you won't know what you have. You're going to have questionable receivers. I think we're fine with that. But the running back play, if it's bad, you don't have a good running game, then you don't really know what you're going to get in golf. You really can't evaluate him fairly if you have a bad running game. That's not to say you need a top 10 running game. You just need something that's effective. And the Lions have missed this for a long time. Let's hope that we finally have it. We have the right coaches. Now we have the personnel. So let's keep it. That's what I like about it. You know what you're getting on the field. Know what you're getting off the field. You draft someone. You don't know what you're getting on the field. You don't know where you're getting off the field. You don't know where you're getting into. So let me know your thoughts, comments below. Thank you for watching. And I'm out.